What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the stream. Everybody that's here right now, thank you all so very much for trickling in here. Anybody that's watching the stream afterwards, thank you for taking time out of your day to watch little old me. Let's get into it. We can see some people in the chat. Thank you so much. First, what is going on? Thank you. Let's go Lakers. That's right. Facts. Can trade Iris. I'm assuming you mean Russ. Yeah, hopefully we'll get into all that. What is going on, Rich? I appreciate you. Thank you all so very much for being here. Made a video earlier today, and this was kind of a stream I wanted to make the other day, but I got caught up. But I think it still ties in. I think it's still relevant at this time in regards to just the whole situation with the Lakers, right? We all want the Lakers to trade Russ immediately, right? We all want the Lakers to do a deal. And I did a video sort of breaking down and diving into kind of like what's going on, right? Like all these trades. You have the Knicks trade. You have the Utah Jazz trade, right? Obviously, the Kyrie Irving trade, the Indiana Pacers trade, things like that. And people want the Lakers to pull the trigger, right? Get it done. Come on. Let's move. Chop, chop. Let's make the trade, right? But here's the thing. There are a lot of circumstances and dominoes that need to fall in order for the Lakers to make any trade outside of the Indiana Pacers deal. And that's a deal that isn't going anywhere, right? Buddy Hield, Miles Turner. Nobody is banging on the door for either of those players. And it's not because they're not good. It's just that Buddy Hield is on a tough contract. How many teams look at Buddy Hield and go, that's the missing piece. We get Buddy Hield, we're now a contender. We're now a team that Buddy Hield is a player that takes us up a notch. He's not. He's a guy that can be very serviceable, that can be very key to in the right situation and on the right team, things like that. But he's not a guy that's going to change the fate of your franchise. You know, if you're a fringe contender, he's not making you a contender. If you're a contender, he's not elevating you so much more that, you know, it's not Kevin Durant to the Warriors, right? And he's on a bad contract for a couple years. We saw great example. Look at Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson, he shot like 43% or something like that in the bubble. And then you know, he hasn't been able to replicate that. And at the time, his contract looked like gold, right? Like Miami got him for, what was it, like $20 million a year or whatever. It was like, cool, perfect. You got this like dead-eye shooter for shooting 43%, all this stuff. And now look, now he's even out of the rotation completely because he offers nothing besides shooting. And that's the concern with Buddy Hield. When it comes to Miles Turner is a guy that is great. He's still young. He's a guy that can, you know, be impactful. But a lot of the contenders, they already have their center locked in. A lot of like really good quality teams, they already have their centers locked in. He's a guy that's on an expiring contract. So what are you going to trade to get Miles Turner and run the risk of him just leaving next year if he's in a situation he doesn't like or it doesn't work or he wants to just test free agency, right? Maybe he just wants to see like what is his offers like, things like that. So what are you going to trade? So the Indiana Pacers deal likely isn't going anywhere, assuming that deal is really on the table. We don't know for sure. We're just going off of reports. But if that deal is really on the table, then it's not going anywhere. Now, move to the Kyrie trade. Why don't the Nets just trade Kyrie Irving, right? If they're going to trade Kyrie Irving, which I think it's a matter of when, not if they're going to trade Kyrie Irving, why haven't they done it? Well, there's a multitude of reasons. One, the Nets know what the Lakers deal is. That doesn't mean it's locked in. It doesn't mean it's ready to go. But they know what the Lakers are willing to give up, what they can give up, and what they're willing to accept and what they're willing to take in any deal for Kyrie Irving, right? So in that case, why do you need to rush it? Now, the domino is Kevin Durant, right? Kevin Durant is the first domino that needs to fall. Now, even if Kevin Durant does decide to stay, unless he like stays and he's like, look, I'm in it for the long haul. If you extend Kyrie Irving, you stay, you know, you keep Kyrie Irving, all that stuff, then yeah, maybe that takes Kyrie out of the conversation. But even if Kevin Durant does stay, it's very likely that they still trade Kyrie Irving unless Kevin Durant says absolutely not, which if the reports are true, Kevin Durant doesn't even want Kyrie there. So if that's the case, but the reason you wait for the first domino that is Kevin Durant to fall is because if you're the Nets, you're hoping that say you trade Kevin Durant to the Celtics for whatever package, right? Let's just say Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and Derek White and a couple firsts, right? Whatever the deal is. If you're a team like, say, Miami, and you're looking at that and you go, dang, the Celtics were just in the finals. They just beat us in a game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they just upgraded Jaylen Brown for Kevin Durant. Can we beat them as currently constructed? Maybe we go and take a chance on Kyrie Irving. If it doesn't work out, 1-year deal, he's gone. He can walk. It's no skin off our back. If it does work, we can re-sign him, make it work. Maybe he can kind of fit in. I'm not saying that the Heat would do something like that or any team would do something like that, but the hope is if you trade Kevin Durant, more teams might come out of the woodworks to want Kyrie Irving because now it puts pressure. Also with the Donovan Mitchell deal. Why hasn't Utah traded Donovan Mitchell, right? Because if you're Utah, you don't need a rush. Donovan Mitchell isn't adding pressure to you. So why wouldn't you wait to see what happens with Kevin Durant? Because if Kevin Durant gets traded, maybe some of these other teams feel more pressure to go and trade for Donovan Mitchell. So the price goes up. Now, I don't think any teams are coming out of the woodworks for Kyrie Irving regardless, but if you're the Nets, you don't have anything to lose to just wait around and see what happens, right? It doesn't cost you anything to just sit and stand pat. Now let's move on to the Utah and the Knicks deals, right? Why don't the Lakers just do that if those deals are on the table? Those deals are only on the table if Donovan Mitchell is traded. The Knicks are only willing to trade those pieces if they trade for Donovan Mitchell, because at that point, Russell Westbrook becomes valuable to them because they need to move off of a bunch of salary. They need to move off of Evan Fournier, Derrick Rose, Julius Randle, because they have to, extend or re-sign Barrett. You're going to have Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson on max deals. So now you need to clear your books so you can start building a team around these guys. Like that's the thought process. But they're not going to make that deal unless Donovan Mitchell gets traded there. And then Utah, they're not trading Bogdanovich. They're not trading maybe Patrick Beverley, but they're not trading the core pieces. Jordan Clarkson, guys like that. They're not going to do that as long as Donovan Mitchell's on the team, because if Donovan Mitchell's on the team, they're going to want to be as competitive as possible. They're not full tank mode yet. And so you keep a lot of those guys, and hopefully Donovan Mitchell and them can kind of be at least a playoff team at that point, right? So Donovan Mitchell needs to be traded before Utah gets anything done. So if you're the Lakers, you have no choice but to stand pat. If you're the Lakers, you have no choice but to wait to see what unfolds, because you're waiting for these dominoes to fall for you to start opening up and the possibilities to be explored. Kevin Durant gets traded tomorrow. That's the first domino to fall, because then Donovan Mitchell probably gets traded. Kyrie becomes more valuable for the Nets to trade, stuff like that. Maybe some teams get out of the woodworks. It's a complete domino effect. That is why the Lakers are standing pat and being patient. Not just that, but the Lakers are trying to work out deals to get not just Kyrie Irving, but multiple players, right? The original report was that the Nets want the Lakers to take on Joe Harris, which I don't have a problem with if Joe Harris can be healthy, but that's a big problem. Is he even going to play this year? He's on a bad contract if he doesn't play, because he's making, 18, 19 million a year over the next 2 years. It's basically the Buddy Hield deal all over again. But personally, I would rather have a healthy Joe Harris over a Buddy Hield, because Joe Harris provides more. He's also bigger, same shooting percentage, can play defense, is more effective than a guy that just is either shooting threes and that's it or nothing. So if you can work that out deal, great. But the Lakers want to try to get Buddy Hield, and they want to try to get these guys. And not just that, but the Brooklyn Nets, they need players because they can't replace Kyrie Irving. They don't want Russell Westbrook. Maybe in a Joe Harris deal and they can move off some other salary, then maybe yes, because that would actually clear some cap space. But if they can't move off of Joe Harris, the Brooklyn Nets are completely cap strapped. They can't go and replace Kyrie Irving next season. So they need players, which means you got to wait for dominoes to fall, because if the dominoes don't fall, then the Lakers can't go and acquire other assets to trade. Now, maybe the Miles Turner deal, maybe something like that. Maybe they decide to keep Kevin Durant, talk to Kevin Durant and go, hey, we need to trade Kyrie in case he leaves. Would you be willing to take on Miles Turner? What do you think about Miles Turner? We can get him and a deal and a trade. And then, you have that kind of other low post presence to help you out, block shots, play defense, stuff like that. You have plenty of shooting around you. Like, what do you think about that? Kevin Durant might say, yeah, if we can't keep Kyrie Irving, go get Miles Turner. And now it's a 3-team deal. Very likely whatever happens in a Kyrie deal is very likely going to be a 3-team deal. Whether it's assets and pieces from the Jazz, whether it's assets and pieces from the Knicks, or it's assets and pieces from the Indiana Pacers. So the Lakers have no choice right now but to just be patient and wait for the cards to hit the table and see what they get, right? So that's a big thing, because I see a lot of, comments and questions and stuff like that. Like, why don't the Lakers just pull the deal? We need the Lakers to pull the deal. And it's like, how? They can't. The only trade that they could make right now assuming that it's actually a trade that is really on the table, is the Miles Turner and Buddy Hield. But that's not better than a Kyrie deal, so you might as well wait for that. And all the other deals are all predicated on Donovan Mitchell going elsewhere. So it's just something that I just wanted to address, talk about in this stream. But let's jump into some more of these questions. Where are we? Let's get a trade. I'm with it. We need it. But like I said, got to be patient. We still have about a month and some change before we get into training camp. If this was the trade deadline, I think a lot of these things would already be done or they'd be ramped up. But there is no deadline. So there's no rush for any of these teams to trade or happen. Even the Russ deal. I even talked about how, it was like a week ago now, was the 1 year anniversary from when the Lakers traded for Russ. So the Lakers still had a whole month or whatever it was before they made the Russ deal. A lot of deals happen in August. And right now, everything's just at a standstill. I mean, there's still some really good and quality free agents that haven't even signed because everyone's waiting to see what happens with Kevin Durant. Nobody wants to take on players. No one wants to take on salary. No one wants to do anything until they know what is going to happen with Kevin Durant, which I think is an interesting element as well. But yeah, at this point, the Lakers just need to remain patient and see what falls, what happens. Nothing's changed if they just wait. And the last thing you want to do is make a deal for, say, Buddy Hield and Miles Turner, and the Nets were like, dude, we were going to trade you Kyrie Irving. Like, what are you doing? Like, we just needed you to wait a week. Or, Kyrie gets traded elsewhere for like a bag of chips or something, and they buy him out, or something, and now you can't get him. Like, it's just, you don't want to make a deal that jeopardizes that. Can the Lakers trade Russ to the Spurs for Kyrie? So supposedly, again, we don't know for sure, but supposedly the San Antonio Spurs have said that they would take on Russ's contract for a first-round pick. Problem is, you can't do that deal unless the Brooklyn Nets drop their asking price. Because right now, the Lakers only have 2 firsts that they can trade. And if the Nets, push comes to shove, and the Nets want 2 firsts, then you can't give the Spurs a first. So you got to work it out. So right now, either the Nets need to be willing to take on Russ, or the Lakers have to figure out a 3-team deal to get some assets. Like I said, maybe Miles Turner goes to the Nets, or maybe they would like Julius Randle, Evan Fournier, and Derrick Rose. So maybe you could do that deal. Everybody wins, right? The Knicks, they clear off their books. They're happy. They probably even give up a first-round pick. I'm not saying it has to be one of their first, but they might give up, what is the least favorable pick in our treasure chest? Here's one. Take this pick, and now the Lakers have 3 firsts, and you can kind of make a 3-team deal, sending all the assets from the Knicks to the Nets, and then the Lakers get Kyrie, and then so on and so forth. That is something that could happen. In the Jazz deal, maybe they would be willing to take on Bogdan, and like, okay, we'll take him, we'll take a Jordan Clarkson, and then you can have Kyrie Irving, something like that. Maybe that's something that they would do. Very likely, however this shakes up, if it happens, it's going to be a 3-team deal. I don't think that this deal is going to happen, and it's going to be like a straight up Nets Lakers. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying it won't happen entirely. Maybe if they trade Kevin Durant, maybe Russ becomes more valuable for the contract, because they trade Kevin Durant. Depending on what they get, maybe they look at it as like, what we'll take on. If you take Joe Harris and, Patty Mills, just to get their salary off the books, because we got, a Miles Turner, a Derek White, or not Miles Turner, a Marcus Smart, Derek White, and a Jaylen Brown, we'll do that. And then maybe the Nets will take them on. They clear off salary for next year, and they just waive Westbrook, or, maybe try to make it work, whatever. I think most likely any team that trades for Westbrook, they're just going to buy him out, which also makes sense why Westbrook got Jeff Schwartz, who he is famous for buying or getting the max money for guys that are bought out. I mean, like Darren Williams, LaMarcus Aldridge, Blake Griffin, like all these guys got huge buyouts. So he's known to be that negotiator in the buyout trade. So, and any trade that happens for Russell Westbrook, very likely that team is going to buy out Westbrook. So he got an agent that is known and good for that. So it's just something to think about. What is going on, Lake Show Proco? What is up? Appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for popping in here. All that stuff. What else we got? Oh no, sorry, refresh. Here we go. Mr. Kyrie Trade, always good to see you. Appreciate you, Speedy. Thank you. Hey, somebody's got to do it, right? Somebody's got to do the talks, and here I am. We're here. We're here to have these discussions. It doesn't look like any team wants to make any trades. I think it's because of the Kevin Durant thing. I think teams are trying to wait to see what happens with Kevin Durant. If Kevin Durant stays, I think we see like maybe a Donovan Mitchell trade or Lakers go in and acquire somebody else. It's just like Kevin Durant has the entire NBA on still. And the reason I think Kevin Durant is the first domino that has to fall is because, like I said, even look at like free agents. There are some quality free agents out there that teams might be willing to take on, but they're not getting any offers or any leverage or any conversations because everyone's just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with Kevin Durant. I think Kevin Durant either gets traded or he stays, and they have confirmation, okay, KD staying this year. And then I think we see a lot of these free agents start signing. I think we see a lot of these, trades, even smaller trades, start happening, stuff like that. Because there might be a deal worked out for, I don't know, let's say, like a mid-tier guy. Maybe there's a deal for like Steven Adams, right? Let's just say, just a name thrown out there. I'm not saying there's any reports or rumors or anything. I just want to clarify. That's just a random name that popped in my head. Let's say maybe there's a deal for Steven Adams out there, but they're like, we want to wait to see what happens with Kevin Durant, because what if Kevin Durant goes to this team over here or that team over there, and then maybe we don't want Steven Adams. Maybe we want, Patel from the Spurs or something like that. I just think that Kevin Durant is the first domino regardless, for anything to start, for real traction and movement to begin. W channel, what is up? What is going on? Money Marcel, appreciate you being here. Even Shannon has to give up on the Kyrie trade. You and Trevor Lane are not giving up so easy. Hey, somebody has to be loyal to the Kyrie trade. Shannon, I mean, look, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying it's definite, but like, what are the Nets' other options? Like, yeah, they could keep Kyrie for this year. And let's say Kyrie 100% buys it. Let's say he balls out for them. Kyrie could still leave and say, hey, look, I honored my obligation. I balled out for you. I was a team player. I did everything you asked for. And I'm out of here. Peace. And the Nets are screwed for the next 5 or 7 years. Like, even if Kyrie, unless you win a championship, because if you win the championship, then at least you have that to hang your hat on, right? Hey, we're in a bad spot for the next 5 years, but we just won a championship. You got a title. You basically have one shot to win the NBA championship, not counting, hoping nobody gets injured. This team meshes well. Kevin Durant doesn't implode the team. Kyrie Irving doesn't implode the team. Ben Simmons doesn't implode the team. Like, it's just so much that they have to figure out and hope fall into place for them to ride out Kyrie Irving. We don't even know if Ben Simmons is going to play. The hope is that he will, but who knows? Like, if he doesn't play, I don't think Kyrie and Kevin Durant with these guys are a contender. And if they get eliminated in the first round again, neither of them are going to stay. Kevin Durant's going to be wanting to be traded again, all that stuff. And the Nets can't replace him. If the Nets could let Kyrie walk and they had $30 million in cap space, then fine, who cares? Go get somebody else. Maybe that other piece you get or a couple pieces you get, maybe they are enough to keep Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant's like, oh, man, you just got me these two guys. Like, that's great, perfect. Like, let's do that. Like, let's run it back. Like, I like this. These guys I can count on, but they can't do that. So they're stuck. Like, that's the problem. And that's why I think Trevor Lane probably thinks that the Lakers deal is going to happen too, because he's probably looking at it the same way I am. Like, what are the Nets' options? The Nets really want to run it back. And the problem is, if Kyrie starts imploding their team, now you're not getting anything. You might as well just let him go. Because at that point, if you're the Lakers, I'm not giving you 2 first-round picks. You should have traded with me in the summer. Guess what? Now it's the trade deadline. You're going to take back Russ. We'll give you 1 first-round pick. We're going to take Seth Curry and Kyrie Irving. And good luck to you. We'll give you a couple seconds, or maybe we'll give you 1 first. At that point, the Nets lost all their leverage and all their conversations. And that's why I think Trevor Lane is looking at it. He's looking at it as like, the Nets don't have any choice. And there's no other teams that are going to randomly come out of the woodworks and say, oh, we want Kyrie Irving now. Nobody wants him except for the Lakers. And the only reason the Lakers want him is because of LeBron James. If LeBron James wasn't on this team, I don't think the Lakers would be anywhere near Kyrie Irving. And it's because of his lack of dependability. And I think that's a big problem. And that's why I think Trevor Lane's probably looking at it as like, hey, what are the Nets' other options? I mean, I don't want to speak for him. I don't know if that's the case, but I mean, he is one of the people that has really held out to like, hey, he's coming back, that kind of thing, or he's coming to the Lakers, that kind of thing. But yeah, why give up, ye of little faith? Let's go Lakers. Exactly. Why? Hey, look, the Nets could easily put an end to all of this. All the Nets have to do is come out and say, hey, we are not trading Kyrie Irving with or without a Kevin Durant trade. And guess what? This whole conversation goes away. But guess what? That hasn't happened yet. And until that happens, why not? Why not? Why not believe that something's gonna change and that they're gonna come back, or that Kyrie Irving's gonna work out or whatever? I just think and until we get that confirmation, might as well hold out hope. If the Nets trade isn't going to happen, we should move on to figuring out what we're doing with Russ. So, I mean, the Turner Hield trade will prevent us from signing Kyrie Irving. So, to both of these parts is that one, until we get confirmation that Kyrie isn't coming, I think the Lakers stand pat, because I mean, at the end of the day, that is the best deal, whether we like it or not. It is, and then if that doesn't work, then you pivot to something else. Now, the Turner Hield deal would prevent us from signing Kyrie Irving, assuming LeBron takes a max contract. Because problem is, Kyrie Irving's probably not getting a max deal regardless from anyone. So if he really wants to come to Lakers and he wants to sign, you have a couple options. One, Kyrie signs for, instead of 30 million or whatever, he signs for like 25 million, and LeBron signs for like 30 million instead of 45 million. And here's the thing. Like, I don't think LeBron will take like a huge pay cut, but what is left for LeBron other than winning? Nothing. He's probably going to be the number one scorer all time in NBA history this season. After that, all he's trying to do is just stack championships to be considered the greatest player ever. And what better way to do that than to have Kyrie Irving and Buddy Hield on your team with Anthony Davis and, let's say, Miles Turner, right? So LeBron could very likely, you're probably losing Miles Turner unless Miles Turner takes like an $18 million a year contract again. Maybe you have a backloaded contract or something like that for when LeBron's contract is up, something like that. You can make it work, because even with Buddy Hield, the Lakers would still have like $80 million in cap space, because the only players you'd have on your roster at that point are Buddy Hield and Anthony Davis. So you're basically doing Buddy Hield, Anthony Davis. LeBron would have to sign for like 25 million a year. Kyrie signs for like 25 million a year. And then maybe get Miles Turner for like 18 million a year. And then there's your salary cap. And now you have a starting five of Kyrie, Buddy Hield. I don't think Buddy Hield would start regardless, but just for argument's sake, Kyrie, Buddy Hield, LeBron, Davis, and Turner. Like, you're probably winning a couple championships with that team, even if LeBron starts to decline. Not saying that can happen or that it will happen or anything, but it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. If Kyrie wants to come back, most likely what happens is you're letting Turner walk, and then you keep Hield. Maybe Hield, because now he'd be on an expiring contract rather than 2 years, $40 million. Now he's on an expiring like $19 million a year contract. Maybe teams would be willing to take him on. And then the Lakers can kind of dump salary for like a couple second round picks or something, or like a pick swap or something, something along those lines. I'm not saying it will happen, not saying anything like that, but it's not out of the realm of possibility is my point. Real quick, before we jump into more questions, it's 152 of you beautiful people in this live stream. Hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. We are at 1272. Can we get to 1,300 subscribers? That's only 28 out of this 151 of you beautiful people. Hit that subscribe button, like this video. We talk nothing but Lakers on this channel. So if you're a Laker fan, subscribe. How do you feel about Gary Trent? I love Gary Trent. For whatever reason, Toronto seems to want to trade him. They've tried to trade him like 3 times. I I just don't know what he would cost and what the Lakers would have to give up. For whatever reason, the Raptors seem to really want Taylor Horton Tucker. They have tried to like trade for him 2 or 3 times now. So maybe you could do a package around him, but I don't think he's a guy that again moves the needle. And like if you have to give up both firsts, no. Like if you could give up one first, like say one first THT and Kendrick Nunn or something like that, and go get Gary Trent. I'm not saying Toronto would ever do this or they'd be okay with it, but like let's say they really are that high on THT and they're like, Kendrick Nunn can kind of be that point guard, be that scoring guy, something like that. Like if they wanted a deal like that and you could give up like a first and maybe like a second or 2 seconds or something like that, then yeah, why not go get Gary Trent? But that's assuming the Kyrie deal is dead, all of those things. Like if like this would be like your last option. But Toronto would probably want both firsts, and I just don't think he's worth both firsts. He's still very young, plays good defense, and he's a great shooter and scorer. And he was the number one 30-point a game scorer in the league last year, I believe. Like he had more 30-point games than like LeBron, James Harden, like Westbrook, like there's like a whole list, like Kevin Durant, like all that stuff. So he can score. It's just what do you have to give up would be my big thing. Report Kevin Durant to meet with Nets owner Joe Tsai amid ongoing trade demands. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's talked this week. Yeah, I'm sure he's talked to him about a couple times. I mean, at this point, it's looking more and more likely like Kevin Durant is going to stay with the Brooklyn Nets. And so if you're the Nets, like you got to kind of have a talk with them. You got to kind of sit down and be like, hey, we need to have conversations about you potentially not being traded. I think so. It makes sense. Facts. Yes. Whose man is this? What's good? I appreciate you. Are you going to make an MLB channel or an NFL channel soon? Just wondering. So I have started talking about NFL on As It Stands. The videos aren't doing very good currently. Not this channel. This is As It Stands Lakers. For those that don't know, I do have like the mother channel, which is As It Stands, and I talk all sports. I've started diving into NFL. Not doing too great, which I understand most of my audience over there are NBA fans. Hope is that some of them like basketball or like football too, but definitely talking football. I don't mind talking. I'm trying to get a buddy of mine to maybe potentially do like an MLB channel under like the As It Stands banner, because I have a little knowledge of MLB, but like I am like my encyclopedia of knowledge is basketball first and then NFL. I'm most knowledgeable about basketball, but then NFL is probably second in line. MLB, like I just over the last like handful of years kind of became knowledgeable of MLB, and it's just because I like to bet sports, and I was like I should know what I'm betting on. But I'm not like a master in baseball, but I have a buddy that really is. He knows like all the ins and outs. He knows everything. So I'm trying to grow the channels enough to entice him to maybe do a channel about baseball. So hopefully soon. The goal, which I've talked about before with the As It Stands, is to eventually start branching out into other channels. Maybe not just me, because I can't have like 15 channels, but like, start getting people I know, or like, smaller channels that maybe are really knowledgeable, really good, kind of bring them up and everything under the As It Stands banner. Obviously have progress. That's kind of the goal. So sooner or later, eventually. But I need to grow. I mean, As It Stands, it grew extremely fast. I got like 4,000 subscribers last month. And then this channel, I got monetized in like 2 weeks. I went from like just starting this channel to, like I said, 1,200 subscribers. And we're only 28 away. So 28 of you, I need 28 of you beautiful people to subscribe to this channel at least. Obviously, don't stop there if you're not subscribed. All of you subscribe if you can. But it'd be nice to get at least 28 subscribers, get to 1,300. But when it comes to making other channels, branching out, stuff like that, I need to get enough of a following and growth before I can do all that stuff. The Laker thing, this channel, I knew would be good because a lot of the stuff was Laker related when I first started on that other channel. So yeah, we'll definitely start branching out and stuff like that soon. I appreciate you. Thank you. Like this video, peeps. Yes, exactly. Thank you so much, Speedy. I really appreciate you. Thank you. Yes, like this video and subscribe to the channel. What else we got? We got, why do you think us Laker fans hate the Celtics? Is it because of the rivalry? I mean, I think more, I guess, new age fans, they don't. A lot of people think that the Lakers Celtics rivalry is dead. There isn't really a rivalry. But people that grew up, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, most of us still hold on to that rivalry. Like I still hold on to that rivalry. Like don't get me wrong, I always say I'm an NBA fan before anything. Like I try to. Do I have biased moments? Of course, especially when it's talking to Lakers. But I try to put things as much perspective as possible. Over here I might have a little more bias just because it's a Lakers channel. But like when I'm talking on as it stands, like the main channel, like I tried to be as as level headed as possible. Of course, it shows sometimes, but I think that a lot of like old school fans, we still hold on to that rivalry because we remember the days, remember the good old days where, even in the 2008, 2010, stuff like that. But it'd be nice to get something that kind of relights that rivalry. Like, right, if Kevin Durant goes to Boston and Kyrie goes to the Lakers and they meet in the finals, there's that reignition, right? That would be fantastic. Do you think the NBA was much easier back then? That's why Bill Russell has 11 rings. Yes and no. So talent wise, yes, it was much easier. I know a lot of like old heads and a lot of old school players and stuff. They talk about like, oh, like this player, that player, all that stuff. Like it's delusional. Like we have guys that never see an NBA court that would probably be stars, 50 years ago, just because they're so athletic. They're so they can still shoot. They're the skills of the average player today is far better than what it was, back in Bill Russell's day. There was talent though, and Bill Russell did play against. He played against like Wilt Chamberlain, Jerry West, Bob Cousy, guys like that. Like there were guys that were extremely talented back in those days, but that Celtics team had like 90% of it. There are circumstances, and every era will be like that. 30 years from now, the players will probably be better then than they are now. Like it's just players are evolving, medicine is evolving. Players are being more skilled. We're seeing more 7-footers now that have ball handling skills than ever before. Like Lamar Odom was an outlier. He was rare. Like, he was a guy that like that today would be, one of 100 players. Back then he was a hot commodity, and so it just as generations move on, generations get better, medicine gets better, technology gets better, sports knowledge gets better, everything. And so of course you're going to have that progression. But it's I think it's part of the conversation, part of the reason why Bill Russell isn't mentioned as like one of the greatest, if not the greatest player ever. It's because you're making in comparison. People put everything in comparison. Bill Russell was playing against guys. I mean, there were centers that were like 6'5" back in those days. So, but it's all in perspective. You always say that our Lakers getting Kyrie Irving, and it's not happening. Like I said, everything takes time. Like I mentioned earlier, we have a lot more people now. I won't start all over. For those that wanted to hear the conversation before, either watch the video I posted earlier or replay this later. But essentially, all of the trades right now that the Lakers can make are all predicated on another move. The Utah Jazz and the Knicks trade are based on Donovan Mitchell getting traded. The Kyrie Irving trade is based on what happens with Kevin Durant. Whether he stays or goes, I still think the trade happens, but he's the first domino to fall. The only trade that the Lakers could make right this second is the Buddy Hield and Miles Turner. But that trade isn't going anywhere. No one's knocking on the door to try to acquire Miles Turner and Buddy Hield. And it's not because they're bad players, not anything like that. It's just Buddy Hield's on a bad contract and Miles Turner is on an expiring contract. So how many teams are going to give up assets to get Miles Turner and he just leaves you next year? So all the other trades, every trade that the Lakers have been linked to, all need another domino to fall before they can make that trade. So the Lakers can't make the Kyrie trade right now, even if they wanted to, because the Nets are waiting on Kevin Durant. Kyrie getting the Lakers will be sooner than later. Yeah, I think so too. I think it's a matter of when, not if. I really do, and I'm holding on to that. I really do. I think it's a matter of when, not if. Buddy Hield needs to stay where he is at. I would rather have Seth Curry way more. A better fit, not scared to shoot. Possible final appearance with LeBron against his brother Steph. That's clutch. Yeah, I mean, well, it'd be Western Finals appearance, but I get you. The problem is they don't really want to give up Seth, which makes sense. He's an expiring contract and he shoots as good as Joe Harris and Buddy Hield. So, but I mean, if we could get him, great. And I've talked about it's very likely that the Lakers and Nets maybe at some point meet in the middle, and you see something where, the Lakers give up like both firsts and Westbrook or something like that, and then THT, and then the Lakers get like Kyrie, Seth, and Joe Harris. Just throwing stuff out there. I think it's possible that we could see that like middle ground. But yeah, I mean, obviously, if we can, I don't really understand the Lakers' fascination with Buddy Hield either. I think it's more of like the white whale. It's that player that we should have gotten last year, we didn't get, and now that it kind of seems like they just want to get him just to say we got him. So that's kind of my opinion on that. Like I would rather have Joe Harris than Buddy Hield, but I mean, we'll see. We'll see how it all develops. The Nets are looking like a really bad ran organization. I mean, they are. And I mean, they really squandered this whole thing. And I mean, it's not solely their fault, but one, they gave Kyrie and Kevin Durant way too much power. And now it looks silly. They should have extended Kyrie as much as they didn't want to, but they should have extended Kyrie, and none of this likely would have happened. And what were your other options? It's just, they put the cart before the horse, and it's just one of those things. But I've talked about it before. Like Joe Tsai, you got to understand, Joe Tsai, he's a businessman. And he's a cutthroat businessman. And when you're in business and you make a bad deal or you make a bad investment, you cut it off and you move on. And that's how he's looking at this whole situation. He's looking at Kyrie Irving as that was a bad investment. And instead of waiting around, hoping that something changes, cut it off and move on. And that's likely what's going to happen. And the problem is Sean Marks, it seems like he's on the hot seat, really. Like it does. I mean, there was all the talks about him getting a contract extension. And as soon as that came out, everything was like, nope, hate to break it to you. He might actually get fired. So it's going to be interesting. Love your optimism. Thank you. You got to be optimistic. You got to stay optimistic. The Lakers have options. We hold the leverage in negotiations. I'm with you, Tony. They do. They have options on the table, and they're in the best position to just be patient. Just stay pat, stay calm. Let everything unfold. Like I said, what are the Nets going to do? The Nets really going to run back with Kyrie Irving? And like I said, even if he buys it, even if he gives you 100% of Kyrie Irving, there's nothing stopping him from walking away next season, and the Nets are screwed for the next 5 years. So it's like you're putting so much faith in guys that won't show up. And not just that, how invested is Kevin Durant going to be? If you keep Kevin Durant, like I'm not saying he's a guy that's going to sit and play, not play, because I don't think he is that guy. But is he going to be a guy that's willing to kill himself to try to win a championship? Is he a guy that's going to, play through small injuries and little knickknacks? Like what's stopping Kevin Durant from getting like a pulled muscle or something, and he's expected to be out for a month, and he just sits out for 6 months because he has a doctor just sign off saying he's not ready to be on the court. Like it's just this can end very badly for the Nets. Do you think Curry or Clay is leaving the Warriors soon? I do. Curry definitely never. Clay, I don't think he will either. But I think, as messed up as it sounds, I think push comes to shove, the Warriors would trade Clay if they had to. At some point, the Warriors are going to have to make a decision. Jordan Poole is probably gone because they're not going to pay him max money, and he'll be able to get max money somewhere. Someone will pay him max money, and the Warriors don't really need him. So probably let him go. You still got to sign Kuminga, Moses Moody, James Wiseman, Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins found his home. He found his fit. He was arguably their second best player consistency-wise through the entire playoffs. And I just think he provides so much more. And I think if Clay can't get back to being Clay and they have to pay all these guys, I think it's possible that Clay could end up being traded in a couple of years. I don't think they necessarily will. I don't think they want to. But at some point, you got to move on because you got to think about like the future. These guys are only getting older. Like what's going to happen with Draymond? That's another big question. So we have 2 days until LeBron signs or doesn't sign with the Lakers. So here's the thing, though. A lot of people seem to think that August 4th is like a deadline, and it's not. August 4th, LeBron doesn't have to sign or not. I see a lot of comments and a lot of like things like that where people are like, August 4th. August 4th is the first official day LeBron can sign his extension. It's not a hard date. It's not like if he doesn't sign on August 4th, that's it. LeBron can become a free agent. No, it's nothing like that. Like August 4th is just the first day that he's contract extension eligible. So the 4th isn't a deadline. It's a beginning. It's a new beginning date. So just for clarification, Turner and Buddy Hield. Hey, I'm with it. I'm not against that deal at all. He would have to take the lowest, which is like $6 million. If you talk about LeBron James, I don't think LeBron James would ever go that low, but I mean, you could work it out if you needed to. If you needed to, you could work it out. Like I said, it just depends on how badly does LeBron want to win. Which, like I said, at that point, he's probably going to pass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar this year for the all-time scoring, and all that's left is to win championships. You want to try to get as close to 6 championships as you can, if not more. So at that point, you got to start thinking about taking pay cuts. I don't think he'll ever take like a vet minimum or $6-10 million contract, something like that. I don't see him ever doing that just because he knows what that would do to his legacy. But I could see him doing like something similar to like James Harden, where you opt out of your deal, you go use some of the money to go sign 2 players, and then James Harden gets the rest. I could see something like that. I could see LeBron saying, go get Kyrie, re-sign Miles Turner if you can for like 18 to 20 million, and then that should give me like 20 million a year left over. I'll take that. Something along those lines I could see him doing. What are our chances that the Lakers end up swapping AD, Russ for KD, Irving in a package deal? I'm personally not against it at all. I actually think it would be a pretty good deal, but in reality, it's probably as close to zero. I don't want to say anything is guaranteed, but I just think 1, Kevin Durant probably wouldn't want to play with LeBron James, and 2, Lakers have said they're not trading AD. But I mean, if you could get Kevin Durant, I do think it's the best. Like if you're the Nets and your asking price, like the Lakers can meet the asking price. And that is something that, like for both Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, because who are you going to get that's better than Anthony Davis? Like you're not. And then you get Russ, and then now you have salary, because if you get rid of Kevin Durant and Irving, the problem is Russ and Simmons fit. But at that point, maybe you can trade Simmons. I think it explores possibilities. I don't want to say nothing is, guaranteed to happen one way or another, but I'm not against it. I'm really not. G-Man coming in hot with the $5 super chat. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. I really do appreciate it. Larry Bird with the Pacers and Danny Ainge with the Jazz are both Lakers haters. I think we need to find new options because they will overtax us. Absolutely. You're not wrong. Larry Bird isn't with the Pacers anymore, is he? I thought Larry Bird, hasn't been with the Pacers for a couple of years. Can't remember the GM's name off the top of my head. Yeah, it's Kevin Pritchard. There we go. Oh no, not Kevin Pritchard. Chad Buchanan. There we go. Is currently the general manager for the Pacers. Yeah. Bird eventually did up with the Pacers though. His executive playing days are over. Yeah. I don't know if he's still an exec off the top of my head, honestly. If he's, I don't think, if I'm not mistaken, he's not a part of the organization at all anymore. Trying to find the answer real quick, but I'm not saying anything. Yeah, according to this, it says he's not anymore. That he left. Yeah, so if I'm not mistaken, yeah, he's gone. But beyond that point, Danny Ainge, yes, definitely with the Jazz, which becomes a problem in any trades. And then, but at that point, the Jazz need to do what's best for for that team because the only way the Jazz trade happens is if Donovan Mitchell gets traded. So, and Danny Ainge is about draft picks, right? So, very likely in any Jazz deal, the Lakers are giving up both first round picks, and then they're giving up Westbrook to take on likely a bad contract and a couple, which is why I'm not really big on the Jazz deal, because the Jazz deal, they're going to want us to take Mike Conley. And I know some people really like Mike Conley, but he's on a bad contract. And not only is he on a bad contract, but he's a guy that he's not he's not a starting center, in my opinion, anymore. Or center, starting point guard in the NBA anymore. I think he would be a great backup, but again, it's his deal. You're in the long-term salary. The Jazz trade, as great as it sounds, I don't think we get the trade that we want, and two, I don't think it's the best option personally. And you got to look at what players will retain value over time. And that's something else. Like when it comes to the Jazz trade, none of those players are very likely going to hold on to the value over time. But the Pacers deal does, because Buddy Hield becomes an expiring contract, and Miles Turner, even 5 years from now, is still in his prime. He's still only going to be like 31, 32 years old. So he would still likely have value. That's why I think the Pacers deal is probably the best next to Kyrie. But yeah, the Lakers tax is real at the end of the day. Teams are going to do whatever they can to fleece the Lakers just because that's just what teams like to do. No team wants to be the team that got fleeced by the Lakers. They just don't. But again, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. I really appreciate it. It really does help out the channel, and you're awesome. And that's a way, everyone, just so you know, that's a way to get ahead of the line. Otherwise, I just go in order. But if you have a question or anything that you want known and made immediate, this is the way to do it. But where were we? We were here. I don't like the Buddy trade. I feel like he is too much the way he plays. I don't really like the Buddy Hield trade either. The problem is that if you're trading for Miles Turner, you have to take on Buddy Hield just because it's the only way to make the deals for Westbrook work, to move off of Westbrook. And they're not going to trade any like their young guys or anything. So you'd essentially have to do you'd have to take on Buddy Hield and Miles Turner, which if that's what you're left with, like that's not a bad deal. But to like just go trade for Buddy Hield, no, I don't want to see that happen. I don't like if you're just trying to get Buddy Hield just for his shooting, I'd rather you just re-sign Melo. Melo's going to give you the same amount of defense and likely the same amount of shooting. Or give Cole Swider a chance, right? The kid shot 53% or whatever from three in the summer league. And I'm not saying he's going to shoot 53% in the NBA, but is it unrealistic to think that he'll shoot 38%, 37%, which is what Buddy Hield shoots? So why not give him a shot? And it's not like Buddy Hield has years of playoff experience. He's never been to the playoffs. So you don't know how he's going to show up. You don't know if he's going to be a liability. You don't know any of that. That's my thing too. So I don't know. Yeah, very, very likely. Well, unfortunately, the Nets have all the leverage. I don't know. I disagree. I don't think they do. I just think like they have too many things that they're hoping happens. And if one of those things don't happen, they're screwed. Like you need Kyrie to buy in. You need Ben Simmons to buy in, and you need Kevin Durant to buy in. And all three of those guys have shown the lack of ability to buy in. And if one of those guys don't buy in, none of those guys are probably going to buy it. And so that becomes a huge problem. What's good with the Lakers trades? First off, thanks so much for being here. Secondly, we're just waiting around. We're just kind of waiting around for these deals because all these deals are based on a domino falling. You need some domino to fall, whatever that is. Whether it's Kevin Durant, whether it's Donovan Mitchell, we're kind of just waiting around. Lakers are doing the right thing, just standing pat. That's what they were doing. Unless they're giving up Pascal Siakam, then no. Yeah, if only. Sports betting channel. So this is actually another channel I've really, really thought about like expanding into because I love sports betting. I think it'd be kind of cool. I would definitely do something like that. Like I said, I want to establish like my main core audience first, because then I can start expanding, like I don't want to put the cart before the horse, so to speak. I would love, like the goal is, to have as it stands And then we have As It Stands Lakers, which is this channel that you're all on. And then grow the audience on both of these channels. And then I can start expanding. And I'm not saying I have to have like 1 million subscribers on both, but at least get, I'm not even at 10,000 on the main channel As It Stands. We're at 1278 here, which there's 240 of you. If you guys could subscribe, don't forget to subscribe. Help me get to at least 1,300. We only need 22 more subscribers to get to 1,300. But I want to grow established core audience here, established core audience there. I may do it'd be cool to make some like sports betting videos on those channels, but actually, especially like As It Stands here, I kind of maybe if like the days that I bet on the Lakers, maybe make that known. But I would like to do some sports betting videos on As It Stands. But before I start expanding into any more channels, I definitely want to grow the audience on these. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, so to speak. But a sports betting channel, fantasy football channel, or just fantasy sports channel in general, I think would all do really great. Those are really popular, especially fantasy football. I think I think those could have some success. The goal is to expand at some point, But I'm new. I'm just starting out, really. Like I said, I was nobody a month ago. I mean, I'm still nobody. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not like some big YouTuber now. No, I'm a small fish in a little pond. But I was like nobody like a month ago. I had like 250 subscribers on As It Stands a month ago, and I got 4,000 subs in a month, which is a blessing. But we still have a long way to go. So, again, subscribe to this channel. Subscribe to As It Stands, my main channel. Especially I'm starting to talk football stuff. So especially if you like football and you like football conversations, because the football videos aren't doing very good because most of my audience is basketball, which is fine. But I like talking football too. And that channel, I want to talk all sports. I want that to be fun. But yeah, subscribe here. Subscribe to As It Stands. All those things. I appreciate all of you. That would be great to have your buddy who's an MLB expert under the same banner. Yeah, that's kind of my goal. Like I'd like to kind of like, I don't know how much of an expert, but he like knows every time I talk, he's like, dude, like I have to ask him at times, like, what are you talking about? And he's got to like break it down and explain it to me. And so he is somebody that's extremely knowledgeable about baseball, which I would rather, like if I'm going to start a channel and have, somebody speak on it, I want it to be the best information possible. Like I don't know enough about baseball. Like I'll talk about baseball here and there. Like I even want to talk about some of the trades and stuff that happened, but I'm not like some expert in baseball, and I don't want to talk about stuff that I don't really know, or that I'm not very good at, understanding stuff like that. So it's just things to keep in mind. Who do you think the Lakers are getting? I still think Kyrie is the most likely. I still think that is the most likely scenario. I could be completely wrong, but I think very likely it's going to either be Kyrie or the Buddy Hield and Miles Turner deal. I think those are the two deals we end up making. If you was in the Lakers front office, would you offer AD and Westbrook to the Nets and they give us KD and Kyrie? If the Nets would do that, I would do that immediately. Like if you were just doing a swap, absolutely. I would make that deal immediately. Sorry, let me turn this down. Sorry about that. But yeah, like if we could do that deal, I would do that immediately. Yeah. I just think it would benefit both sides. Do you think the trade will ever happen? Kyrie going to Lakers? Your honest opinion? I do. I really do. Like I said, I could be completely wrong, but I just don't think the Nets have very many options after that. You're banking on so many things to go right if you're the Nets, if you don't trade Kyrie Irving. And if one of those things go wrong, your whole team is imploded. And if Kyrie just walks and leaves, you're screwed. If Kyrie decides I'm leaving, like that's it. It's over. So that becomes a big problem too. LeBron, the Nets wouldn't make the trade, and Lakers don't want to give up 80. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, that's the problem is that they don't want to do the trade. But I mean, if they could, like if the Nets came and said, hey, you know what, we'll take AD and Westbrook, and we'll trade you Kyrie and KD, you do that trade. You don't say no to that. I love watching your streams, man. Keep up the good content. Well, thank you so much, Barles Charkley. I really do. I appreciate you. You're always in these streams, and thank you. Thank you. Boston fans are kids. Yes, LeBron James. I hope Kyrie has a headache and say, I demand a trade to the Lakers. I mean, basically, according to reports, he basically already has. I'm suing you. I hurt my hand smashing that thumbs up button. That's what I like to hear. I love it. Thank you, Blucka Blucka. That's right. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Help me get to 1,300 subs. I'd really appreciate it. Yo, another Lakers channel? Yes, yes, sir. Yes, yes. Gotta love them Lakers, right? Gotta love it. And I appreciate you popping in. Chances Lakers get Kyrie. I'm still at about like 70-30, somewhere around there. I've been like that for a while. I don't think it's like definitive, but I think the chances are higher than not. I can honestly say that I feel like Miss Bus is holding on to those future picks, which I don't know what for when LeBron has maybe 3-4 years left. I mean, I don't think I know a lot of people feel like that they're just like hoarding those picks, but I don't think that's what it is. I just think they want to make the right deal. Because I mean, the whole point, like the reason they don't want to give up 2 firsts because they kind of want to have their cake and eat it too, if that makes sense. Like they want to go get Kyrie Irving and trade for Buddy Hield. So I think that they're just kind of holding out to see what the right deal is. But I really do think if push comes to shove, they'll trade both of those picks. Draymond probably leaving. He's probably going to join LeBron. Problem is the Lakers wouldn't be able to sign him because I don't think he's taking a vet minimum deal, especially because we probably still get more money from the Warriors than anywhere else. But I wouldn't be surprised if Draymond leaves. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I think the KD meeting is to let him know wants to take the Boston deal, but KD don't want to play for Boston, so the option is stay with the Nets, go to Boston. I mean, that's a possibility. I mean, right now the only partner seems to be Boston in the Boston Celtics, which I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it all goes. Talking about Kyrie, yes. What else? LeBron not signing that extension because it hasn't been any movement on the Kyrie situation. I don't think LeBron was signing that extension regardless, if I'm being honest. Just because I think LeBron's going to do 1+1s for the rest of the as long as he's with the Lakers. Because he's going to want the flexibility for one, and two, he's not going to want to get locked in long term because he's probably going to want to play with the son or retire or whatever. So I personally don't think he was going to sign that extension regardless. But you never know. Taking the $6 million. Oh, okay, that makes more sense. Talking about Kyrie taking the $6 million. Got it. I still don't think he will. I still think the Lakers would pay him. I don't think he's getting a max like he wants from anybody. But I do think he'll get paid. LeBron signing a 1+1. Yeah, that's what I think too. I really do. I think that's what ends up happening. Let's say Kyrie didn't hit the clutch 3 back in the 2060 finals. Do you think the Warriors win as it stands? Yeah. I mean, but that's the NBA, right? I mean, it's one moment, one play, one outcome. I mean, I think it's very possible the Warriors could have won. I mean, but granted, if he doesn't hit that 3, maybe they get a stop and they hit a 3 after. I mean, there's a lot of things that could happen. But I mean, that's the NBA, right? One moment, one play, one turnover, one whatever, Kyrie come to the Lakers, man. I'm with it. I take KD for. I would too. I'd take KD for 80. Like if that trade was available, like if you could actually do that, you do that immediately. Lakers not getting no good players in any trade. I doubt that. I mean, you don't think Buddy Hield and Miles Turner are good players? I think however you shake it, the Lakers end up with some quality players. The Lakers went left this offseason, let McMillan go. Yeah, I mean, I do. I like where we're heading at least. We'll see. Lakers aren't trading LeBron. Relax. What's good, bro? How you doing? Would you rather have Buddy Hield and Kyrie as your backcourt or Pat Bev and Kyrie? I believe Pat is way better fit with Kyrie because he can play off the ball and great defender. I mean, yeah, I would rather have Pat Beverly if you can. Problem is can you end up getting both? If you can, then yes. If you could end up getting both, then I think you do that. Yeah, I'd rather have Pat Bev and Kyrie in the backcourt than Buddy Hield. I think no matter what, I just don't think Buddy Hield's going to start. I could be completely wrong, but I don't. I think even if we did the Buddy Hield and Miles Turner deal, I still don't think Buddy Hield's going to start. because I think they're going to want their best. They're going to want their best defender and 3-point shooter, because you have LeBron, who, I mean, he can play defense when he needs to, but you can't expect him to lock people up for 82 games. And then, he's probably running point guard too. So you need your two best defenders. You can't have Buddy Hield. Lakers aren't trading LeBron. It's not a good look for the franchise. And also, you don't trade LeBron. He's never been traded for. Yeah, exactly. You just don't. I mean, look what the Lakers did for Kobe. I mean, obviously Kobe is Kobe, right? We all absolutely love Kobe. Kobe is legendary, right? Rest in peace. But in reality, if we're being honest, they should never have given Kobe Bryant that max contract at the time that they did. But the reason they did it is why LeBron James went to the Lakers. That's why the Lakers did that contract, because it shows we as the Lakers, we take care of our stars. We do what we need to keep our stars happy, to keep them secure, to show that. Like, them doing what they did for Kobe Bryant showed good faith to people like LeBron James. So, and you trade LeBron James, guess what? You just blew all those good faiths. I would take KD, Kyrie for Westbrook and LeBron in a first round pick. Problem is LeBron's not. I mean, Nets wouldn't do that, and LeBron wouldn't do that. If Lakers didn't exist in the NBA, would you most likely be a Celtics fan? Probably not. I would be very likely some LA fan, because I would have grown up with one of them, whether it's the Clippers or the Warriors or something like that. But I wouldn't have been a Celtics fan. I love the Celtics in the sense of like NBA history. Like, if you're talking about history of the league, like, yeah, then I do. I love the Celtics. But as a Lakers fan, like, I hate them. If I'm talking like from an NBA perspective, the Celtics were very vital, very crucial, very important for the league in general. But I'm a Laker fan through and through. I grew up with the Lakers. I grew up in LA. I've been I'm old enough to have been there before Kobe, after Kobe, all that stuff. So I would be a Sixers fan. Yeah, I mean, that's another one. That's very possible. As it stands, is the next Rolling Hollins of the sports news. Hey, he was a better sport. Even he himself said, "I'm a better sports analysis than a basketball player." We need AD for defense. Yeah, absolutely. I just subscribed. Well, thank you so much, Matthew. I really do appreciate it. And anybody that subscribes, seriously, thank you all. We're 23 subscribers away. Help me out. Help me. It'd be wonderful. AD Turner front court would be deadly. It would be, absolutely. If they could make it work and they could kind of figure it out, yeah, that would be good luck trying to score on the inside. Seriously, it just good luck. Do Lakers still have mid-level exception contract they can use? No, they used it on Walker. So yeah, he got the $6 million roughly deal. Damn, you really care about the Lakers? Absolutely, of course. That's why I'm here. I grew up with them. I grew up with the Lakers. Lakers are my team. Can't go wrong with the Lakers. Would you take Patrick Beverley? In a heartbeat. It just depends on what you're giving up in trading. Personally, and some people might feel otherwise, but I wouldn't trade THT for Patrick Beverley. But the problem is that that's probably the only way you do it. I just think that, one, you could probably get better value for THT, and two, I just think you're traded. Although you clear off his salary, that would be the only argument I think as to why you trade THT for Patrick Beverley, is that now his salary is off the books. I don't know why you care about Lakers getting Kyrie. Oh, I'm assuming that's a comment to somebody else. Probably the lone wolf guy. Yeah, he trolls all these things. He even trolls my comment section, so I just ignore him. If Westbrook ends up staying, who do you pursue at shooting guard? So if you end up keeping Westbrook, I just think you run it back. You run it with the team you currently have, which is not the best thing in the world, but very likely I think it'll be, which a report, I said this a couple weeks ago, and a report came out that said basically the same thing, that the Lakers are going to start whoever their best defender and most consistent 3-point shooter is during training camp, which is what I would likely do. So very likely you're looking at, if assuming Westbrook stays, just looking at Westbrook and then whoever that person is, whether it's Austin Reeves, Walker, Troy Brown, whatever. And then you have LeBron, Davis, and then probably Thomas Bryant, very likely. I think he'll be the one that starts. Um, it's kind of weird. You would think you also have a lot of football fans since the number one sports in America. Yeah, I that was kind of my thinking too, if I'm being honest. But I mean, the problem is like, so I'm not that big, right, to begin with. Even on like the main channel as it stands, like I have like 4,200 subscribers, something like that. Out of those 4,200 subscribers, like how many are just general football fans talking about everything? A lot of them are probably very specific, like they're Jacksonville fans, so they only want to hear stuff about Jacksonville rather than generalized football. But I mean, I've mostly only talked about NBA and basketball, which it's because we were in the heart of free agency when I started. So, that's been hugely beneficial. I can't, like I said, I can't complain too much, but I am kind of shocked that the NFL videos, that the football videos aren't doing. Like, I didn't expect them to do like what some of the NBA videos did, where they'll get like 10,000 views. But I figured like they'd probably get at least a couple hundred to like maybe 1,000 views. But like some of those NFL videos, like they'll get like 100 views, and I'm like, damn, like even just from a percentage perspective, So I don't know. And I'm not talking about like some random obscure stuff. I'm talking about like the stuff that is like trending right now. So I don't know. It's just like anything else, I just got to be consistent with it, build the football audience, and then I'll post that one video that just takes off, and then there's my audience. Also, it depends on what you watch, because you got to remember YouTube's algorithm. So like if you're somebody that doesn't watch football videos, YouTube's not going to recommend you my football video. So that's the thing too. Like if all you watch are NBA videos, then YouTube's just going to show you all of my NBA videos. Here are my NBA videos. It's just something to keep in mind. Great show. Thank you so much, Everything Lakers. I really appreciate you. Favorite free agent signing? I mean, if Kendrick Nunn counts, Kendrick Nunn, but that would be cheating. I really think Walker could kind of be our Malik Monk this year. So I want to say Walker, but I think if Thomas Bryant can get back to being the Thomas Bryant of the Wizards that was putting up like, 25 and 12, like I think he might have the biggest impact, because then you don't need to rely on Anthony Davis to play center in big games and stuff like that. But I would say Walker and Bryant are probably my two favorite. I'm hearing that KD is meeting with the owner of the NetJoe side to ensure them he is serious about his trade demands this week. Yes, that's supposedly the word. Yeah, I'll get a video up about that, give my opinions too. But yeah, I'll probably talk about it as it stands. But yeah, that's the word. So hopefully that kind of lights a fire, I guess, under the Nets behind. Who would be? God, come on, need to learn how to read. Who would be the primary ball handler if LA, if Kyrie is starting point guard? LeBron James. Like I think it'll be like by committee, but I think LeBron James will be like the point guard. Kyrie will probably start at point guard just for paper, but LeBron James will probably run point. Or they'll do like a committee set, where Kyrie will bring the ball up sometimes, execute the offense, but the ball will likely flow through LeBron on most of the possessions. And Darvin Ham basically said as much, right? Darvin Ham said that, he wants the ball in LeBron's hands whenever he's on the court. No KD trade will be made. I mean, it's very possible. It's very possible. I still think it happens, but I don't know. We'll see. Kyrie isn't worth 2 first-round picks. Keep in mind, no other NBA team wants him. I mean, he is, but if you're the Lakers, you're competing with no one, so he's not. If there was competition, then yeah. If you're the Lakers, yes, you do the 2 first. But there's no competition, so you don't have to worry about that. Westbrook puts 2 firsts for everybody with supposedly no value is definitely fair. Yeah, I think so too. Might as well do the Hield and Trade deal with no Kyrie. Yeah, if you have no Kyrie, that's the next best deal in my opinion. Damn, how bad would it be if Kyrie doesn't go to the Lakers and Halloween ends? It's a good movie. It's just no one would let you live it down, Freddie. I know. I'd be. That's the day you're canceled off the internet. Uh, probably a 3-team deal. I think very likely any trade for Kyrie Irving is going to be a 3-team deal. Very likely. Even the Indiana Pacers deal, it might be a 3-2 deal. Hi from Malaysia. Well, thank you so much. All the way from Malaysia. I love your channel. Lakers fans for life. Best wishes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Seriously. I really appreciate that. I get a lot of people from like other countries, like the Philippines, especially, stuff like that. Welcome. I really do. Thank you all so much for being here. And everybody in general. Thank you all. Nobody will trade for AD or Westbrook. A lot of teams would trade for AD if AD was available. A lot of teams. Westbrook has value. He just doesn't have value as the player right now because he's so much money. KD value is low. Yeah. Because teams know he wants out. So it's like, it's one of those things. It's looking like Austin Reeves will start at the 2. That's what I think most likely ends up happening. I think Austin Reeves, probably happens. Who's that coming home? Any updates? So far, I mean, nothing, no headway as far as it goes. It's just the waiting game. We'll see what develops. Hopefully, we can start getting some headway and some deals. We'll see how the Kevin Durant conversation goes, right? Would you re-sign Avery Bradley? Personally, no. I wouldn't. I don't think he's a bad player, and he has his moments and stuff, but like Frank Vogel was obsessed with him, and Frank Vogel had to stop playing him. I just think we have too many undersized guards already. No team wants to trade the valuable pieces for a hurt AD or aging turnover machine for $47 million. It's all bogus talk to have something to talk about during the offseason. I mean, we'll see. We will see. First off, Anthony Davis hasn't been in trade talks, so I don't know where that came from. The Lakers have clearly stated they will not trade Anthony Davis, but Westbrook, teams have value in his contract. The Lakers still need a 5 to be part of the starting team. We also need Kyrie. We have 2, Damian Jones and Thomas Bryant. People are sleeping on Thomas Bryant. If Thomas Bryant can get back to being healthy, I mean, Thomas Bryant was a double-double machine. Like, I think at one point, like 2 years ago, he led the league in double-doubles, if I'm not mistaken, or he was like second, something like that. I want to point that on being patient for Kyrie trade it isn't like they have an opening night tomorrow or next week. They got plenty of time to make. Exactly. There's no need to rush. We're still a month and a half before, or not a month and a half, but a month and some change before training camp begins. If you're the Lakers, you be patient. The Kyrie trade you're the only team that wants Kyrie Irving. He's not going anywhere. Like, some team's not coming out of the woodworks tomorrow going, you know what? We changed our mind. We were just playing. We just wanted to see we're here. Like, every team that was named as a potential Kyrie suitor all came out and were like, no way, not happening. Keep that guy as far away from us as possible. There are my top 3 head coaches of all time. Number 1, Phil Jackson. Number 2 is Greg Popovich. Number 3 is Steve Kerr. I do agree. Top 2, yes. Steve Kerr, I would have put him number 3. I don't even know if Steve Kerr is a top 5 coach all time, because I mean, we got some great coaches all time. I mean, like Wooden, stuff like that. Like, I think Steve Kerr is a great coach. Don't get me wrong. But is he because of the players and team that he has, which Mark Jackson built? Steve Kerr just came in and started that motion offense, which was essentially the catalyst to take him over. Like, Steve Kerr was more adept to the times than Mark Jackson was, and that was kind of the thing that put him over. But I mean, like, we saw Luke Walton win like 23 straight games with the Golden State Warriors. Like, the Golden State Warriors are such a well-oiled machine that, like, how much of that is Steve Kerr and how much of that is just their talent and their chemistry and stuff. Like I said, I do think Steve Kerr is an all-time great coach. I just don't think he's number 3 personally. But I yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't put him number 3. I do think he's a great coach though. I understand. I'm not against you putting him as number 3. I'm not like, no, like what? That's a stupid choice. Like, no, I understand the argument. I just question him a lot, you know? But yeah, great question. I don't like none of the free agents. We got all the scraps, honestly. The problem is there were no free agents. Like, who was out there that we would have realistically gotten? There wasn't anybody. Like, we weren't going to get Gary Payton II, which Gary Payton II, as great as he is, he's no better than like most of the guys we got. And then, I mean, defensively he is, but and then Otto Porter Jr., he was never going to sign with us because we didn't have the money to sign him. So it's like we got all the guys that we had hoped would sign, like pretty much all of them. This just wasn't a good free agency class. Well, then the Lakers stick with Westbrook and get $47 million for it. It's not a really bad chance. Exactly. That's my point exactly. Is if our worst option is that we are stuck with a $47 million expiring contract, that's not a bad place to be in, honestly. Like that's that's still a pretty good spot to be in. But yeah. The Lakers need to part with at least one of their first round picks to make a big trade. Yeah, I mean, they know that they have to trade their picks. They just want to make a trade that is worth it. They don't want which I do want. I don't want to see the Lakers make a trade just to make a trade. Like they need to make a trade that actually improves the team and the roster and gives us. Otherwise just wait. You never know what tomorrow is going to bring, especially in the NBA. Like this time next week, somebody else could be available. You never know. Lakers need some new blood and start over with some picks. I mean, that's never been the Lakers, though. I mean, they have drafted and stuff, but even a lot of like their drafts came from trades and stuff like that. I just think you have LeBron James, you have Anthony Davis. You can't hit the reset button yet. You just can't. What news you got on Carmelo Anthony? As of right now, nothing. There are a couple teams that are supposedly interested. Even the Knicks are a team that is considered to bring him back. The Golden State Warriors are another one. I would love for the Lakers to bring back Carmelo Anthony, especially if all you need is a 3-point shooter. Why would you go trade for Buddy Hield when you could just sign Carmelo Anthony? And you don't have to give up assets for it. Unless you're getting him in the, like I said, in the Miles Turner deal, then okay, fine. But like if you're just trying to get a shooter, re-sign Carmelo Anthony is going to give you the same defense Buddy Hield is. So it's not like you're losing anything on the defensive end. And Carmelo Anthony was a great 3-point shooter for us last year. Do you think Darvin Ham is the guy for the job? I really do. I think he's a guy that can sell water to a fish. And I think he's a player's coach. He's a guy that is an X's and O's guy that really understands the modern NBA. And I think he's going to properly run the 4-out, 1-in offense because Frank Vogel ran that on several occasions, but he ran it terribly. I do. I think Darvin Ham's going to be a guy that players are going to buy into. He's a player's coach. He's an X's and O's guy. He's a guy that understands where we're at in the league. I do. I really think he's going to be very promising as a coach. Bryant is a very formidable God. Sorry, it's been a long day. Formidable starting center. Send the Nets Turner and some picks for Irving. It's one of the best scenarios for the Nets, honestly. I agree. I really do. I think if the Nets could end up getting Miles Turner and some picks, whether it's, 2 or 3 second-round picks, that's about as good of a deal as you're going to get for Kyrie Irving. What better deal are you getting from any team for Kyrie Irving than that? A young center that can block shots, knock down threes, spread the floor, do a little bit of everything. He's still only, 27 years old. You can re-sign him and sign him to a max deal so you don't lose out on Kyrie Irving. I mean, what deal are you going to get better for that? Is it possible that KD reunites with Russ? KD is meeting with the Nets this week. What's your thoughts? So Kevin Durant is meeting with the Nets. I think this is going to be an interesting conversation. The Nets are holding out hope that Kevin Durant's going to retract his trade request. I think personally he's not. I think he's going to say, look, I want out of here. I think it's very possible we start seeing the ball get moved. And We're going to find out if that report of Kevin Durant wanting Kyrie gone is true. Because if that conversation happens and then like 2 or 3 days later, Kyrie Irving is traded, that means that was true. Because that means the Nets are probably going to sit down with him and say, what do you need to stay? And if Kevin Durant says, I need you to trade Kyrie Irving, Kyrie is gone. But as far as Russell Westbrook, I doubt it. I don't think it has anything to do with. I think Kevin Durant, if he had to, he would ride it out with a year for Russ. Which maybe that's part of the conversation. Maybe it's like, do you want to take Russ? Because look, however you feel about Russell Westbrook, there's a few things about Russ that you can't deny. He's dependable. He's going to give you 82 games. He is the opposite of Kyrie Irving. He's not as skilled. He's not as talented, but he is the opposite. He's dependable. He's going to play every game. He's going to give you 100%. You're not going to have to worry about him. And we know that Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook work. It worked for years and years. And you'd only have to do it for 1 year. So I do think it's a possibility that it could happen. It's just, will Kevin Durant sign off on that? I think if Kevin Durant signs off on Russell Westbrook, that happens immediately. I think if Kevin Durant tells them during this meeting, like, hey, we want like the only thing we can do is take back Westbrook. If he says I'll play with Westbrook for a year, I think we'll see that immediately. When Steve Kerr barely had players, Clay and Curry were injured, he was trash. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but you're talking about your two best players. I think every coach would be kind of trash. But I do think a lot of it has to do with system guys, and that's my big question with him. Rob doesn't know what he is doing and doesn't have an eye for talent. I completely disagree with that, but hey, to each their own. If we are going to overpay for a trade, it might as well overpay for Kyrie. Yeah, that's kind of my point too. And I do think if push comes to shove, they'll do that. We could use Melo. I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. To be honest, Melo is not good on defense. He isn't. And I understand that, but neither is Buddy Hield, is what I'm saying. And the difference is that Carmelo Anthony doesn't cost you anything. So you have two options that are both terrible defensively, but they both shot essentially the same from 3-point range. So why not do the free option is my point. Starting to lose hope on the getting Kyrie. I mean, like I said, it's all patience. All of the trades that the Lakers have are all predicated on another move. KD either staying or getting traded. Donovan Mitchell going to being traded from the Jazz to the Knicks. All of that stuff. So they can't, like, even if they wanted to make a trade right now, they can't, because a domino needs to fall. It's out of the Lakers' hands. And we still have a month and a half or whatever, a month and some change before training camp. We still got a long time. We still got a long road to go. KD doesn't want Russ for one quarter, let alone one season. I don't think he does either, but, he might not have many choices. Like, you can't always get what you want. It's like, hey, you don't want Kyrie, you want to be traded. At some point, something has to cave. And like I said, at least Westbrook is dependable. Doubt KD would give Russ another chance after seeing the Laker highlight reel. No, I get it. But the thing is, too, is that one, Russ would be able to be Russ on that team. 2, you're only dealing with him for a year. 3, last we heard, Russ and KD were in good standings and that they were friends again and stuff like that. I'm not saying that it would happen or that the Nets would want that to happen or that KD would even want it to happen. But you could do a lot worse if you're the Nets and if you're Kevin Durant. Like if Kyrie sits out for the season, I really think Kevin Durant would be like, man, maybe I should have went and got Russ. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just something to keep in mind. But KD was recently at one of Westbrook's events wearing his clothes, and Russ reposted on IG. Something's in the works. I mean, like I said, the last we heard, Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant were in good standings, that they were both happy with each other, that they were friends again, that they worked through all their turmoil. I'm not saying that it happens, but I'm saying it. I wouldn't completely rule it out. I really wouldn't. Hi, my name is Russell Mills, and I have a YouTube channel. Type make sure first find me. Oh, thank you, I appreciate it. Do you think Russ and Braun are still friends? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll get over it. It's one of those things. It's kind of, I I don't think they were best friends. I don't think they were best friends to begin with. I just think it's like, you know, I don't think they hate each other. The fembots have infiltrated the safe zone. Yes, they did. They did. To be honest, I think if KD really, really wanted to be traded, then I don't think he would have be having these meetings. I think this is just negotiating type of meeting. To be honest, I hope I'm wrong though. I mean, the problem is that where is he going to go? Because the well is really drying up, And so I think that this meeting is kind of like an update to see where we're at. I think it's one of those things where they're going to say, look, these are our options. These are our choices. Which of these teams do you want to go to? Otherwise, you got to write it out for a year. If you want to write it out for a year, we'll see if something develops, maybe at the trade deadline, something like that. Maybe we can get you out of here, but you're going to have to write it out for a year. Do you want Kyrie? Do you not? Do you want us to trade Kyrie and maybe try to get back a Miles Turner? I think that that's what this is. I think that this is let's sit down and figure out what we're going to do here, which makes sense, do you think LeBron's going to sign an extension? Personally, no. I don't think he was ever going to sign an extension. Not that he's leaving the Lakers. I don't think he's going to leave the Lakers. But I think personally, he was just going to do 1+1 deals. He was going to do what he did with Cleveland. Sign 1+1 deals so he maintains flexibility, he maintains leverage, and he's not going anywhere. Where is he going to go? He's in LA for the long haul until his son becomes available or he decides to retire as a Cleveland Cavalier. So I just don't see him going anywhere. I just don't think he was ever going to sign that extension because if he signs that extension, that ruins cap flexibility next season. So, and I think LeBron knows that. And I'm not saying LeBron will take a pay cut, but I think he wants that flexibility just in case. Because like I said, what if you end up doing the Buddy Hield and Miles Turner deal and Russ wants to come to the Lakers next season? If you're LeBron, you might be looking at that and go, hey, if I take like $20 million a year, we might be able to have all these guys. I'm not saying he would. I'm not saying he should. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying it's a possibility. And LeBron is smart. He knows what he's doing. He's going to want to maintain as much flexibility as possible. But we got to the end of the chat. We got to all the questions. I am going to sign out of here. We'll do this again tomorrow. If you're not subscribed, again, please subscribe. We are only 17 subscribers away from 1,300, and there's 183 of you. I'm sure there's at least 17 of you out of the 184 now that aren't subscribed. Help me get to 1,300 subscribers on this channel. I really appreciate it. It means a ton to me. Everyone that gave me super chats, thank you so much, seriously, for all the super chats. It really does help me, help the channel. Trying to become a YouTuber. Trying to do this grind, and it's nice to get a little put a little change in my pocket and put some money towards growing this channel. So thank you very much for the super chats. Thank you very much for everybody that's here. Like this video. It's free. Doesn't cost anything. It really does help even after this stream. But everyone that hung out with me, everyone that, took the time out of their day to spend with me and have these conversations, whether we agree, whether we disagree, I love it. That's what sports is all about. Subscribe here. Subscribe to my main channel as it stands. If you're not subscribed, that's my main channel. I talk about everything outside of like Lakers. I do talk some Lakers stuff, but a little bit of everything. Starting to start the football talk. Go subscribe over there. You can find that channel on my homepage here for this channel. But yeah, other than that, thank you all so very much. I really appreciate you. I will see you all in the next one. Thank you.